The Hilltop Glove podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today. This episode of Hilltop Glove Podcast is proudly sponsored by Your Dollar Store, located at 3017 Farrell Road in Columbia, South Carolina. Owned by Brian Thomas, Your Dollar Store has been serving the community since June 2021 with a mission to provide fresh produce and essential household items to neighborhoods in need, serving areas like Booker, Washington Heights, and other nearby locations affected by grocery store closures. Your Dollar Store is a convenient one-stop shop for those seeking healthier food options and affordable essentials. Support a local business that's dedicated to giving back. Your Dollar Store, where you can shop, chat, and leave with a smile.
The Hilltop Glove podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove podcast.
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 The Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Today we are thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with the inspiring Robert Matheson. Robert is a community-engaged artist hailing from Newberry, South Carolina, whose work is dedicated to enhancing the health and well-being of individuals through the transformative power of the arts. In 2019, Robert founded Newberry Made, a local art registry that has flourished, now representing over 200 talented artists and makers across Newberry County. His passion for community and creativity continues to drive his endeavors, making a significant impact on the local art scene. Robert's latest venture is in the innovative Non-Fungible Token Museum. This exciting initiative aims to create both physical and virtual spaces for contemporary digital art education, collaboration, and exhibition. The goal is to empower the community to benefit from the rapidly evolving digital economies, showcasing how traditional art can intersect with cutting-edge technology. We are eager to dive deeper into Robert's journey, his innovative projects, and how he is reshaping the landscape of art and technology. Brother man, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
Oh, man, you make it feel good when you say that,
You should
man.
feel good. This is an amazing project.
Thank you. And I'll say, with our project, of course, just to hit off this from the start, we are created in order to try to find a way for us millennials without proper guides and roadmaps to try to see what it is that we need to do in order to further ourselves career-wise, goal-wise, and just in living life. You know, we are in that weird spot between the analog and the digital, and as things have changed and transformed, we've been there to get the guinea pig testing of it, and we're the first group to see what it's like. So it's going to be cool talking about what we're going to discuss today. But we'd like to start off first with who you are, how to get here, and do you have any siblings?
Okay, yeah, I'll start off. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up in Mormon culture. I think a lot of what kind of drives my service it comes from that upbringing. Siblings, I have an older sister. I'm the youngest, and two older brothers.
Okay.
Kind of scattered around now. when I was 35, I moved to San Diego and I started painting year round. And that's really when I got full into my just pursuing art as a full-time career. But I wound up, my path to South Carolina was a little strange. So
how'd you get here?
Usually people's paths to South Carolina are strange.
That's true. Yeah, I was looking for, my dream was to have a studio and gallery space, and I wanted it to be in a place where I felt like I could have an impact. But I'd actually heard of Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's the place.
So I flew into Atlanta and I drove all around eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, looking for the right spot, and I just happened to find this small town in Newberry. South Carolina wasn't really on the map for me.
I was about to ask.
But when I drove through that small town, I realized that, you know, there's a unique culture to the South that was something completely foreign to me coming from out west. And everyone I met was very open and welcoming. And the building that I found felt right. And our town has a small art center that's supported by the city. So I knew that there was something there. We have the Opera House, which brings in a lot of amazing talent.
Exactly.
And I thought, okay, visual arts, this could be something here. And that's what led to Newberry Made, which was when I first moved to town, I was meeting people, but nobody quite knew who all the artists was. There was the art center, which did a lot of teaching, and there are a group of artists there, but I knew there must be more. And so as I'd meet people, they would talk to me about the type of things that they enjoy doing. And they'd be like, oh, you're an artist. You know, they talk to me about being a painter. And they're like, oh, and I said, what about you? Are you an artist? And they're like, no. But then later in the conversation, they'd be like, oh, I quilt, or I like photography, and I'm like, okay, so this isn't.
Yeah,
They're here.
They're here.
And so I put up a Google form, you know, and said, let's all have an exhibition. Let's all bring a piece and meet each other.
Yeah.
Well, that forum started collecting the data from these people, and that became what I understand now to be an artist registry, right?
Yeah.
So it was very organic in that way. And then we held an exhibition, and now we've had an exhibition every year at our busiest event, which is Oktoberfest. 15,000, 20,000 people come in, and we hang all the local art.
Gosh.
And we do all kinds of other gatherings, like we'll do a Christmas social where we trade handmade objects and gifts. But you know, just having a space, something safe, a place where people feel like they're amongst like-minded people, and just knowing who they are. And you all know you're building community through this. You know how powerful that can be.
It's very powerful, yes.
And humbling too, because that group has just been so welcoming and inspiring. So all the work that I do is inspired by that community.
Nice.
Man, good gosh. Wait, I'm just going to touch on this point because you said this so matter-of-factly. So you all have so from this registry that you created that you didn't know was a registry, you now have an event that brings in 15 to 20,000 people to come to Newberry for exchange and art culture, and et cetera.
Well, I think we actually we get to ride on that, right? Because Oktoberfest is a larger cultural celebration, and so we get through the gallery. We're able to raise awareness of our work by taking advantage of those opportunities, right?
Smart, yeah.
And
that's what I want to hear, to hear that explanation, because I know a lot of folks who are listening like, wait, so how did this happen? What's going on? And that's important to know, that you can build out other cultural activities and events to help bring in eyes to the arts.
And that's what you're pointing out to me, which is also something I learned here working with the Arts Commission is, you know, a community has every asset it already needs, right? There's a saying, it's a church saying, everything we needed, we already have in these pews, right? So like even the symbol that you see here, like we wanted to create a symbol for the group, and ideas, people drawing up different, you know, logos and icons and that type of thing. But then it turns out that this symbol is actually carved into the building that was, so the old Newberry Hotel up in the cornice, and nobody knows why or when it was put there, right? But
That's crazy.
It alrea's there. Like, we don't even need to design anything. Like it's right there.
So
we've adopted it, and now, like, I put it on all of my work so that
That's cool.
if it goes out in the world, it
comes all the way back to the
they can figure out where that symbol came from.
That's dope. That's super dope.
So I think it could be replicated anywhere. You know, but it's really just what assets do we have in the community? How can we utilize those assets and to your advantage, and then raise the awareness of that culture locally. Yeah, that's another mistake I see a lot of people trying. You know, they'll come from a larger area, say come from Charleston, and they see all the way that the galleries operate and the type of art that's being done there, and they want to replicate that in a new place. Well, Charleston is not Newberry.
Exactly.
Newberry is a totally different culture, right? Columbia is a totally different culture, and so look at where you're at and how do you elevate that, because that's the uniqueness and that's what's going to last. That's the culture.
Yeah.
Right. I always notice that a lot of people, it sometimes happens where people from other cities or towns end up coming to a new place and helps develop that city or that town because they're not used to it. It's new to them. They see the potential in the environment, whereas the other people that have grown up there don't necessarily see any growth in it because they're just so used to what it is, and they kind of just let it be what it is instead of helping it grow. So I always think that it's neat to see people come from other places who have experienced different things to bring that stuff to different towns. And I think that's so dope that you brought that out there, because they didn't even know that when you were talking about arts, you were talking about arts. And that's everything. Yeah. Like, that's not just being a painter. It's quilting. It's all these other things. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think people generally take it for granted, the culture that you're raised in. And it's the same thing for artists. I think it's a pretty common path that, your family and everything, they know you as the creative one. Oh yeah, you like to draw, you like to play music, you like to do this, but that's just who you are. They've always known you as that way. But when you are sufficiently far enough removed and you come into a new culture and you're expressing yourself that way, that's totally different and something new, right? Yeah. Like when I travel and I meet other artists and the things they're doing, I'm just blown away by them. But I'm sure their family and friends and things, oh, that's just,
it's normal, mundane, every day.
It's like, no, that's not normal.
Right.
What I see in here is not normal.
Exactly. They are not normal.
Yeah.
And I guess this leads into this question that I know we always like to ask people about early beginnings and influence, but coming from Utah, like, what inspired or drew you to want to be an artist? Because I mean, it's something that people like to do, but at the same time, what drew you to your medium and wanting to express yourself in that way?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the first memory I even have was in preschool, writing my first letters and like being very intentional, because like I was about to I was in school, right?
This is the first, right.
And I remember being very precise and like being interested in that. And then I remember listening to music. Starship plays a song called "We Built This City on Rock and Roll."
Yeah, that's the jam. Yeah,
and I would draw all these little cities with like music notes and that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, they were just in Florence last weekend, so I got to go see them. And
you did get to see them?
Yeah, I felt like I was 5 years old again. But yeah, like just there's something about expressing visually, and now I've grown into a real appreciation for poetry as well. Using words as symbols, trying to get to the root of what is it that draws anyone to any particular medium.
Exactly.
But any medium can be used for art, and we'll get into that when we talk about the technology and the blockchain stuff.
Exactly. I think that catches it catches folks' imagination too when you talk about the different mediums and different ways in which you can express yourself through art. And I like, just going back to what we were saying earlier, the folks not realizing that they're expressing themselves through art and being good at it and not knowing it's something that can be capitalized and used to push forward culture, moral, and even economic change in their environment, and how powerful it is. I know my brother and I were having conversations this week, just what was going on politically and stuff, but we were just talking about the importance of things like soft power and the fact that art and culture in itself is a powerful tool. It's one of the most influential tools used throughout the world to find ways to solve and get to the bottom of a problem without warfare. And so, in my opinion, that's why we love art and culture so much, because we realize, hey, you know what? We can solve something and fix something without us having to hurt anybody. So I guess that gets us to just this question about art being in all of us, and the fact that it's a means by which we can heal ourselves, even through things like art therapy. So if you could just speak on how has art, the art in you developed over the years, and do you have a preferred medium that you like to work in?
Yeah. My first and primary medium is painting. There's just something about flow of paint, the history of it, the artist tradition. I have mentors, which I recommend any artist who wants to get serious about anything is to find somebody who's lived it, who's been through it.
Very true.
So I have a couple of mentors, one of which is Philip Mullen. He's one of the best painters of South Carolina. And it's not about learning how they paint specifically. It's about understanding what they've been through and then how you can utilize that and how that relates to you with your journey going forward, because I've made giant leaps in just my worldview and my outlook. But painting is primarily and I would say from the painting perspective, at first I wanted to just create beautiful imagery, right? I was painting nature and inspired by nature and wanted to paint those things, right? And it's about learning the skill, the ability, how do you manipulate paint? But the further I've gotten into all the painting, it's a conversation with yourself. And that's what you're doing. You're solving a puzzle that's laid before you, and at some point you're saying, you get to where what do I want this to say? Not only like the conversation I'm having with the piece and myself, which provides a lot of personal growth, but then when someone views this, right? And you cannot control what someone might say or think.
That's what I like about it.
Like this piece, for example, that I brought in, like that's going to impact people all kinds of different ways, depending on where they're coming from. And so it's just this constant learning about yourself, about others. It's like a self-awareness, trying to.
And it's growth through the expression.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's similar to say, like meditating, and like I'll pay attention. I have a whole series of works that I call my mark making, and all it is abstract painting, and marks my natural way of just making a mark, and I'll write down the thoughts that come into my mind on the back, and like trying to control those thoughts. Like I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but there's a lot of stuff just popping up.
Intrusive thoughts, boy, sometimes.
How do you filter that? How do you filter that? How do you are you paying attention to it? And so that's like kind of a meditative
That's crazy.
process.
So you're cataloging this as you're doing the art.
Yeah. And not only that, then you will listen to the people who are teaching you, like their thoughts come into your mind even about the process, like, oh, is there enough contrast or balance to this and all of that? And you really have to start being like, okay, these are all subconscious wiring in my brain, and I'm actually at a point where I'm trying to unlearn that so I control that a little bit more and try to get back to more of a state of wonder, like before you learn all of that. Because I think that's where a lot of innovation comes from.
Do you ever get stuck in the process due to being jaded from repeating it over and over and over again?
Yeah, I wouldn't say any particular style. I've kind of resisted that because maybe I'm just not there as an artist yet. I know a lot of the great masters eventually get to the point where they're producing work in a very similar style, like Van Gogh or Clifford Steele or some of these artists. But I think that probably comes at a point in which they've developed a process that is so healthy and so good for their soul that they're tapped in.
Okay. That came after development.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so I'm trying to get there. Hopefully one day I'll get there.
It's a process, you know. I'm sure. I'm terrible at art, but
I'm terrible.
You might be surprised. Probably
I mean, I know that it's subjective, right? So it may be great to someone else, but I mean,
that's right.
To me, what are you doing?
Well,
right?
that's that never goes away. Every artist always have imposter syndrome.
Right.
Am I really that good?
Yeah.
I recently went to Austria and I saw some Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele, which are just stun you when you see these things, right?
And it's like, work.
But when I'm sitting there before them, I can look at them now and be like, oh, okay, I can see how this was created. I may not have the skill level yet or the mastery of color, but I realized they were just people.
They're just that perfected a way of doing something. Just like if you watch somebody who's a master, say at martial arts, or is a master at pool billiards, you're like, first of all, I don't know how you made the ball jump, spin, and hit all the rest of the balls. That's amazing. Then you have to realize, 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours. You're like, all right, I got you. You should be good at this. By now.
And you can do it. And if it's feeding your soul, and you just keep doing it, then you will get there. Yeah, I'm totally convinced of that.
Amazing. I know this is something that it's going to be the crux of the conversation, and I know I want to discuss this because I'm very interested in this, and I know during the pandemic, when we had time to sit down and mill our thoughts a little bit more, I really got into NFTs, art, technology, how to find value in things that are completely subjective, right? And I know with you being in the world of art and looking at what's going forward, we have to discuss this, specifically the merging of the two worlds, and how has NFT, how's that changed your outlook within the art world, and where do you see it going?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because earlier you touched on it as being a millennial, so I'm a little bit older than you, but, you know, we remember growing up without internet, without
for sure.
something surveilling us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
You go to your
all
room
time.
and you could literally you felt privacy, all this kind of stuff. And so internet comes
You
along.
turn your TV off, your TV don't watch you.
Right.
Exactly.
Internet comes, and now we've got access to all this information. Like right now, as an artist, I feel so fortunate to live through this period, because this is the most disruptive period any artist has ever lived through.
I agree.
And we haven't even talked about the AI component,
Oh goodness.
but we're literally trying to understand what it means to be a human as we're ushering in almost a new species.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
this is, we get to document that and express that. That
Before
is
Terminator takes over.
incredible.
Before Terminator.
Yeah.
It's
It might be true.
The world before Skynet. Like,
I
yes,
mean,
this is us.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we're on that curve, and I see a lot of creatives that are having a really difficult time with that disruption. They're rejecting it, you know, and I understand that, because that's the way I felt especially when the AI started to roll out. But now I'm realizing that, like, we've never had access to so many tools, and like right now I just did a set of visualizations for a concert that's tonight, and I was able to produce all these visualizations in a couple of hours, right? That would have taken me months.
And you use AI.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And we not only are there's ChatGPT for text, right, textual-based stuff. You got Midjourney and DALL-E for visual, and now you've got Suno for music AI.
Oh, my Lord,
Yeah.
Jesus,
So I
yes.
adapt my poetry, can create a song.
Wait 1 second. Airborne? You heard that, right?
Oh, I know
all right,
about
okay, all right.
All right. So that's wild. And now there's a handful of video AIs.
Yeah,
you know, that
those
will
are
create.
very interesting. Like, where they're even causing film production companies to not invest in on-site materials. That is wild.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So the fascinating thing about all that, though, is earlier before we started recording, we were talking about all the stories that have not been documented or told.
Right.
And now you've got this ability to, for example, this painting that I was working on. This is the story of enslaved people were required to wear badges. I recently went to the new African American History Museum in Charleston, which I recommend everyone go to that.
Please.
But this idea that that's what remains of that person, right? You see these badges, but like, what were their stories, right? So it's digging into slave narratives and the actual stories, and none of that's been really illustrated.
No.
I should say none of it. There are a large number of artists, I'm sure, that are focused on that kind of thing, but the vast amount of stories that we could still tell.
Yeah, because you've had certain projects where, of course, they did during the 1930s, 1940s, with the projects to record the histories of those folks who were enslaved and stuff. We had those sorts of projects, but what you're saying is like just taking them and making sure that we're just focusing on all of that.
Yeah, I clarify, like when I say not documented, like I'm talking visually through the visual arts.
We haven't had that. Yeah.
And there's obviously more and more of that, but it requires that awareness. And so like that institution, even being open there in Charleston, providing all that information, all the access to the research. Now the artists have this opportunity to go. And so it inspires me. I go there, I see that, and I do this sketch of a man wearing one of the badges. And the intent is, that could be done for essentially any person that I can find, and like give them some representation. There's probably no visual representation of them, but something and their story to go with it, right? Just because it's raises awareness, it's more impactful. You can,
It makes you feel human.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is real people, But back to the talking about, let's take that for example, a slave narrative and a painting about it. Taking that, and you want to let's say we want to preserve this for a long period of time. Like, how would you go about that? Like, if you wanted to take this painting and a narrative and make sure it's available to everyone.
For everybody, yeah.
Yeah. The technology of the blockchain to be able to create an NFT, right? Mm-hmm. You're able to register that onto the blockchain, and the blockchain cannot be edited. It's immutable. It's there forever.
Security.
Where most artists, even if they're documenting it all, taking pictures and documenting all that stuff, they're putting it up on a website, up on a cloud or something. Once you stop
what
paying,
I was going to say, on the internet. Put it on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem with the internet is you're paying a subscription, and that's what's keeping it there. But once you die, your passwords are no longer around, all your stuff's gone, your website falls because you're not paying the hosting, all that stuff. But that's not the case with the blockchain. You pay a small fee up front, and it's on the blockchain forever.
And no one can ever get rid of it, take it off. Or
That's right.
like that.
Exactly.
And it leads into all kinds of things with like misinformation and all of that, because first of all, you got to put a little skin in the game. You got to put a little bit of money up to put it in there.
It's true.
Right? So you can't just be out. You're not going to have all these bots just spreading misinformation or creating fake stuff because it costs money.
Yeah, of course.
So there's that, and then once it's on that blockchain, it can always be found and referenced, and the original source of that information. So
It's
even talking
untampered too.
Yeah. Art's one thing, but like I think any information that anybody deems worthy enough to spend a little money on to document will eventually be on the blockchain. Like it will all newspapers, like no more microfilm.
I agree. Say it. I agree.
Right.
I so agree on that.
Podcasts, all this information. It's all going to go up on the blockchain, and because it creates this legacy. And if we take it back to art now, what does that mean specifically for art and commerce of art? Is there's something called provenance in the art world. You've all probably heard of it. Like if somebody comes and says that, Andy Warhol made this and tries to sell it to you, and you're like, okay, how do I know Andy Warhol really?
I need to confirm it. Yeah,
right.
Verify.
So if they got documentation that goes all the way back to when it was purchased, right? That's the kind of stuff you're going to see at Christie's and Sotheby's. They're going to require that before they even try to sell something for you. It's got to have got to have provenance to it.
Right.
And that's what the blockchain provides. Like even if I take a picture of that, put it on the blockchain, write down the hash for that piece, and that follows the piece. That's like a real simple way. It's like a certificate of authenticity. And then that like if I sell that, I can sell the NFT with it, transfer the NFT with it, and now that shows who the new owner of the record is, right? So now it's got this constant.
And without having to go through the normal middleman or the powers that be. Like he said, he did Christine and Sotheby's. And if you know about big auction houses, the finances that most people would have to have in order to have access to that, we ain't got.
Right.
Especially even some artists don't have that finances.
That's another huge benefit of the blockchain art and the NFTs is you're talking, it's a worldwide totally international community. There's all kinds of blockchains that communities are participating in, and so you're trading across those. And in the case, this isn't really the case with physicals because you actually have to mail it to them, but there's so much art now that's just sold digitally. And so that digital file just instantly transfers into their wallet, wherever they're at in the world. And all it's really doing is it's just in a database we call a blockchain, and it's just changing the ownership of that. But now they're the owner, and the economics of it get really interesting because when I originally sell the piece to that collector, let's say he's in China and he pays me $100 for it, right? Well, I get a royalty. I can get a royalty for that. So when he sells it, I get a royalty.
And it doesn't say it. That's why I like them. That's why I like them. Yes.
And now
I never really understood NFTs like that. So I mean,
that's the importance of it.
Okay.
So you'd have a digital wallet or your account essentially, and you've sold this piece, and it sells 10 more times. Well, hopefully it's going up in value too.
As it should.
Your royalty is going up in value.
Right.
And if you want to get into like the details of how copyrights work, copyrights for artists and content creators, they last for, I think it's 85 years. Don't quote me on that. But they do expire.
Yeah, they expire.
Right?
And then they can be released back into
your
the public
blockchain
record.
wallet and royalties never expire.
Oh, okay.
So you hand your wallet down to your children and their children and their children, and they're
still making money.
Automatic all the time. That
without having to go
is
through
an
management.
Absolute revolution in how art commerce works.
That's so, and I'm not gonna lie to you, that almost in itself is the revolution.
Yeah.
Because I know talking to artists about this, even like musicians and like the whole fight over royalties and I gotta sell my catalog right now so I can make some money because I need to make my money before my catalog can't be sold. Well, if you owned your information and your intellectual property in perpetuity, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
It wouldn't matter because like he was saying, this is the thing that caught me on with it, and I was like, yo, I like it. Every time it moves, you don't need an accountant or somebody to track it or make sure that you're getting your 5 or 10%. You're automatically getting it. It's going to come to you every time. And so I saw some people, and you tell me if you've seen these. I thought this was interesting. So people are selling digital the digital art and the NFTs, and they'll sell it to you in a physical way where you get the NFT and et cetera, but they send you a digital preserve. You have to charge it, but it will show you a representation of your art, the NFT, and the blockchain associated with it. And you can hold them so you can actually show it to people like a little hologram.
Oh, interesting.
What the art is. And I thought that was so dope. Yeah, because then you can wear it, you can put it where you want it, but at the same time, anytime you turn it on, you can be like, yep, see, that's what I own. It's out there in the world, but this is my NFT. This is what I own. So if you're a collector of those things, how people would hold on to the paintings, say you don't want to show the painting. Say you want to keep it secure where it's at, right? You can literally have that painting exist in this holographic interface.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of new innovative products. Like Samsung makes a really nice painting. It's a TV that's meant to display digital art like paintings. You could, like, so for example, like
against the wall,
the collection that my organization has is like over 1,300 digital art pieces, right? But like all I need is screens to display it. Like
that's it.
I don't have warehouses full. I don't have to worry about it getting damaged. So there's none of that stuff.
Yeah, it's tight.
So and you know, actually, South Carolina has one of the most successful digital artists in the world.
Say that again. Yeah, blow your mind. Why?
Yeah. So Mike Winkleman in Charleston. He goes by the name of Beeple, and we were talking about Christie's earlier. So he, prior to the NFT craze, what he would do is he'd create a digital art piece every day. And he was very involved in the digital art community, and I hope he doesn't mind me speaking for him. But but as the NFTs came on and this functionality came along, he started to mint his work on the NFT or on the digital blockchains. And one of the pieces that he created was he took like over 3,000 pieces and he made a giant digital collage.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Right? And it went up for auction at Christie's and sold for $69 million. The NFT.
I remember that.
The digital NFT.
Yeah.
Oh my
You can see it at his studio.
What?
You can see it at his studio. It's printed out. It's a giant mural of all these, and it's every single day of his work. And so he continues to do that. He's over 6,000 now, but he does have events down there all the time. And so he's such a fascinating person because he bought a giant like distribution warehouse, and it's a museum basically to his own work. And then he has a room that's like something you'd see in Ibiza or like a big nightclub kind of thing. It's just giant LED screens, and he involves the community. You can, like, I've sent pieces in and have them exhibited there. And so he is like essentially a Warhol of our time. He's just creating massive amounts of work, and he's doing it all digitally. And you know, he's like, museums don't get it, so I'm going to build my own.
Oh, wow.
Why not?
They haven't yet updated the way in which they're doing their transactions in business. So he just said, I'll go ahead and build it.
Yeah, I'll build it myself. And now you do see a lot of the larger museums are building NFT collections.
Oh, yeah, they're slowly pulling. Cool. Look, I slowly, like, when I go check out certain museums, and I do have my membership to go to the Museum of Art. It's funny because, like, you get older, you start actually buying things, like memberships. And so I actually go, and I've been watching. I was like, oh, there's nothing but screens in this room. And it catches me off guard. And I'm like, wow, okay, so that's interesting. And even now, they'll have installations of film, documentaries in the art museum. When I was growing up, that wasn't something you saw in the art museum.
Again, you actually saw the art
just
in
the art.
museum,
Just the art, with a little clip, with a little card below it. Tell you what it was.
Tell you what it was.
That's kind of like what we were implying too, Jazz, like the different mediums and like how people perceive the arts. It just wasn't perceived. Like digital art wasn't taken seriously. It's like digital photography wasn't taken very seriously.
Very true.
And AI art right now is not taken seriously. But in 20 years, when literally that's the primary medium everyone starts with, like it's going to be very, very well.
I got to ask you this about AI art, man. I have to ask you this. Why is it so creepy?
I think that's just like the early days. So like I remember when Midjourney came out and like the hands would be all weird and like the faces are all distorted. Well, that's a funny thing is you can tell what through the provenance, like what is early NFT or AI art, I should say. And now though it's in version 6 and it's pretty compelling. Like you still get a little bit of that, but not nearly as much as you did before.
Yeah, I saw like some like when the beginning when they first started coming out, and like you said, it does look a little creepy. But I was like
the
I did think that too. You know, like in the beginning, it always looks a little weird, but it's still growing. So you know, I'm sure it'll look like.
It'll look like real art. I guess you say like real art.
I didn't want to say real art, but it's just gonna
because
look.
You gotta think about it.
Like
it's artificial intelligence. It doesn't know. And I'll say, well, it's something creepy. I have to put this point out there, man. It's gonna be interesting, but it has to learn what the experience of being a human is, and that's what we're watching it do over time. It's learning, it's growing, right? And so there's a podcast. It had 2 AI beings on it, and the AI beings did not know that they were AI. They thought they were real beings, and they were told that they would now be shut off. And the response that the AI had was interesting. The AI had a conversation on its last podcast explaining that they did not the AI beings did not realize that they were AI, and that they feel this sense of melancholy and et cetera since they're now being shut off, and they don't know what's going to happen to them when they get shut off. Do they go away into existence? Do they like die? They don't know what to perceive about it, and they're wondering, do they have rights?
Right.
This is the AI podcast. They're like, do we have rights to not be taken out? And me thinking about art and NFTs, I'm like, that's a good point, because technically, if they said, don't we have, this blew my mind. The AI was like, don't we have feelings and emotions? And I was like, this is what I was saying earlier. I was like, hey, this is the evil the Terminator. But we're to that point where now we have had enough experience and time with AI where it has started to develop and build sentience.
Yeah.
Right.
And so with the creation of art, and the thing that caught me with the video programs are ridiculous. It will make a scene off of a paragraph. And the scene would be, so say you're a really good writer and you want a scene where a camera comes into the cityscape, follows somebody down, snowflakes fall, you can see the such and such on the screen. It will do all of that, and it looks like real people now. They no longer have ears on their mouth or nothing like that. These look like real people. It's hard to discern it from reality, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, you have whole groups now where you would spend billions of dollars to create this set, take up a couple of acres, warehouses of cameras, etc., sets and everything like that. They say, no, we don't need that anymore.
That's right. We do it in this room.
Yeah, we'll do it in this room, and we'll make a whole world.
Yeah.
So how does that affect your ideas?
It's crazy disruptive. I also wanted to talk to one aspect of that, which is, the AIs are trained on the work from humans, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of controversy around that, right? Because they shouldn't be using my work to create derivative. Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think big tech did know this was coming, because if you upload anything to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they take a perpetual license to your work.
Tell them.
Sub-license.
Tell them.
You're done.
Yep.
They can use that in the future. I always thought, maybe
no
something would show up in like a Ford commercial down the line, and they might use something. No big deal. No, they literally have trained almost sentient beings, right, to learn how we create art, and now create it, and in a lot of cases do it better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is so radically disruptive, and it's easy to be like, no, I don't want you to not my work. Well, it doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter. You have legally tied yourself.
Giving it away.
We were talking about TikTok and stuff earlier.
Not reading all of those.
Y'all should have read
the fine print.
Should have read that fine print. All y'all artists.
It's okay.
So I know that they're passing a lot of legislation, and they'll probably get to the point where you can opt your work out and that type of thing. But ultimately, AI is iterative, and so even if you only trained it on everything that was out of copyright,
it's too late.
It's going to create every potential style you could ever think of. So it is too late. And so how do you? But what are we doing as artists? What we're doing is raising awareness, right? Like, we want to get a message out. We want to beautify the world, all that kind of stuff.
You saw Etsy's
use the tools.
Their recent push. So their recent push is make art more human. Like humanize art. Like, make sure, like, yes, AI exists, right? But come to Etsy or come to a human storefront. Buy from a human. Make sure that you're getting your inspiration from humans. And I thought that was interesting, because they're jumping out on it pretty early.
Really ahead.
Yeah, really ahead of it, because I don't think other folks have thought about that possibility yet, in the sense of, oh, you know what? It's already made it down the road. Like, literally all the way down the road, and we're trying to catch it from back here. It already has a nice head start. But I thought it was interesting. And you as an artist, you actually have a brick and mortar store. Have you had to, and I know with the way that Main Street and et cetera works, it's a little different from others. Have you had to pivot and find a full digital replacement that can compete?
I wouldn't say full, because we're already kind of in the middle of the e-commerce aspect of things too. So there's already like a little bit of a hybrid going on there. Okay. But as far as like, I can rapidly produce, say, prints like for Oktoberfest, for example. I can do that with AI rapidly, create something that's a one-off. in a much quicker period of time at a much lower cost, and so I can iterate and make more work much faster for very niche kind of things that I would maybe not have done previously because of the time it would take and the amount of money I would recoup, right? So it brings that cost, the creativity down, the actual cost of executing it. And so I look at it like that, like you use all these tools and just create more. Or you can get really sophisticated too. Like you can really like,
especially you as
amazing stuff.
As an artist yourself, like you using a tool like that, you can let the AI do stuff, but with your input and your understanding of how the input needs to be made, you with the AI is like an unbeatable force. And that's another thing I was talking with some artists about, the fact that the AI itself, it can produce, it can do whatever it want to do, right? Cool, we'll let it do its thing. But the human aspect of it, it's like having a very skilled, what are they called? Archer shooting a bow. The bow has to be nice. You can have the most expensive bow in the world. You have the best arrows in the world. But if you have an experienced archer, they're going to make that machine do something that just somebody who comes off the street and just shoots something. It's not going to be the same.
Exactly.
I've watched some people do some crazy things with bow and arrows, and I thought this was like, wow, like literally like hit targets from like a mile away. I'm like, wait, you can't shoot nothing from a mile away with no bow and arrow. They'll do some crazy things with it based on wind, speed, all that stuff, big picture. But that's a person who has skills. So that's how I look at a good artist who is using AI.
Yeah.
You can make it do things that I wouldn't be able to, even if in my wildest dreams. I could buy the strongest processing computer. I could have all the good GPUs. It doesn't matter if I don't know actually how to use the actual apparatus. Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that's totally true. That especially, I can't wait until a lot more of really talented musicians get a hold of the music AI stuff.
That's what I'm waiting for.
It's a matter of time until Billboard Top 100's full of AI music. But it's going to be directed by these people, and it's going to be trained on their music and their thoughts and their process. Ultimately, it still is human. It all comes from human knowledge. So, yeah, I think the type of work we're going to see and the number of stories, like I still even on Netflix wish there was more videos, more content. Like there's going to come a time where like
every day,
literally every single day, some amazing hit show thing is coming out that someone's creating.
And it'll be a whole the whole season.
Yeah,
ready to go.
Like that, and maybe even it just keeps writing itself at that point. You know, like
that's what's scaring people.
And like weird interactivity with it. You know, you can it's adapting based upon the people, how they're watching it, when they're watching it. So we're just about an explosion of creativity, and I think so. I don't think it's bad. I think it's going to be really incredible. It might be actually too addictive, to be honest. Though
that's what I was about to say. That's what I was kind of afraid of, because like now having a hard stop of, okay, a human can only give this much energy towards something. You can only binge so hard, right?
That's true.
Eventually, those dystopian future movies are going to be real. Like there's going to be some really like heavy-set 500-pound dude in his room that never leaves, and all his food comes to him. His beer comes out of the port of his PlayStation 9, and he watches TV all day long. And I was thinking about this too. There's a music video with will.i.am that came out. This is like 2009, 2010. And in the video, he breaks out his AI music machine, and it makes a track.
Nice.
And this is what I'm saying, y'all. They already knew. They knew it was coming. Knew it was coming. And so I was like, all right, we should have already been prepared for it. But the cool thing about it was his ability to, quote unquote, again, it comes down to still the human aspect. You still have to use it.
That's right.
It's not going to want to use itself. Because, for instance, what end goal is it working for? Is it trying to feed its family?
Right.
Is it trying to drink water? Does it need a clean environment? And that's what the two AI that were about to be shut off, what they were talking about is just the fact that, I don't have this, I don't have that, I have no real reason for being, but my reason for being is my audience. And I thought that was interesting. They knew they had an audience.
Now we're all the way back to community. Like it's really everything.
Exactly.
All art is reflecting community, and that's what we're doing.
And speaking of the community, because before we go, I want to just make sure I ask you this about what you do. So, like, can you tell us how do you creatively connect with the community? Like, how do you bring that back to the community?
Yeah, one of the projects, actually, I brought some of the pieces here, is during COVID, I started writing poetry and hanging them on the tree at the back of my studio. You know, couldn't be around anyone at that time, but I'd take pictures and I'd invite people to come and hang their own poems. And so that was what now, 4 years ago,
4
and
years,
there's hundreds and hundreds of works that have been hung on that tree. And so it's so fascinating to sit and watch people interact, and families, or people will leave love notes to each other and they'll come and get them back, and they'll write things about the community, and so it's a safe space. You don't have to write your name on it, all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the most kind of interesting things that I've been able to experience through community art, and then also like the exhibitions that we do, and just like we're doing a concert tonight. So just trying to engage everyone and provide exposure and awareness of the arts. That's kind of been my angle. Is art? Everything's about community.
It is, man. I can tell you're serious about that, which is really dope, and that's what, of course, we like. And this is what we're trying to promote through this podcast. And just in closing, do you have anything that you would like to tell us about that might be upcoming events, etc.? And then, of course, shameless plugs. Please let us know how we can get in contact with you. Where's your gallery at? What's the socials? And what AI do we need to holler at to make sure we can get something done with you?
Right. Upcoming, I've got a new community engaged series of work that involves, and I should get, if you don't mind, I'll ask you both this question, is what would your life advice be in 3 words or less? And then my works that I create are meant to be a very direct and visual way to present the values of the community.
I know what mine is.
What is it?
Go hard now.
I love it. All right.
Don't give up.
And don't give up. Perfect. Thank you. I'll write those both down and include them. But that'll be on November 22nd. Newberry does their Christmas tree lighting, which is
it's very well known.
It's super charming. If you want to be in a Hallmark movie, come on that night.
Okay.
And as far as to reach me, robertmatheson.com, Robert Matheson Art on social, and those are probably the 2 easiest ways to.
Do you use TikTok?
No, I don't, but I should.
I had to ask. You know why? You better take advantage while we can.
Right before
before they take it away. We can talk about that all day, but hey, it's all good. Y'all live. You don't need that TikTok. But for the Hilltop Glove podcast, I am DJ, and what?
I'm Jazz.
Tell them what you do, Jazz.
I am a part of a nonprofit called BrwnGrlz ENT, or BrwnGrlz Collective. We would support brown and black women in the community. We do also, work with men as well, but the primary goal is women.
Yeah, we don't need you focus on y'all.
Empower them, uplift them, support their businesses and things like that. So
awesome. I wanted to make sure you said that so they know, because she's our guest host on this episode, and I wanted her to get some shine time. And then in the background, I have sitting with us today.
Airborne.
There you go. You got your name. Airborne. Go ahead. Airborne Audio.
Yeah, I'm a music producer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do other things as well. But,
Thank you so much for being with us today. And then we got 2 interns that are with us today. We got
Kendra.
Hey, Kendra. Kendra's awesome, y'all. Awesome, excellent young lady. And
Ebony.
thank you so much, Ebony. I know you work from prison, but it's all right. I still love you. And then also,
Tamaya.
Yay, Tamaya. And then, of course, our esteemed guest. Say your name.
Robert Matheson.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you all.
appreciate
This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. And again, we will be joining you in your gallery for a show. We must do that. So we'll be heading up to Newberry. Outside of that, make sure that you tell somebody that you love them, that you cherish them, and that you care about them. And until the next time, this is the Hilltop Glove podcast signing out. Wait, I almost forgot. I'm wearing some nice fly gear from Tony Esther. She was one of our guests. I have her hat on. We also have a mug down here I just want to make sure people know what I'm wearing so they don't want, what has he got on? I always got weird gear on. So outside of that, man, peace.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast.